First speaker is Patrick COURNOYER from Pecan. When implementing Pecan at the San Francisco technology company, where he was previously vice president of people, Patrick was so impressed with both the product and the team that he moved halfway around the world to join Pecan in 2016. As now chief evangelist, Patrick travels the world speaking about the transformative power of Pecan. His passion is to inspire thought and action within the global HR community.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely excited to be here. I'm not doing as much traveling this year as I usually do, but I get to virtually spend some time with everyone. So first off, thank you very much for having me as a guest today. I'm going to speak with you all for a couple of minutes about data, and from a data perspective, how COVID-19 has impacted the world of employee engagement. I'm sure that you all have been through interesting experiences over the past 9 months. We have as well at Peakon, and we have about 1,000 customers around the world that we work with, and we have a very deep data set that allows us to understand how COVID-19 truly has impacted not only employee engagement, but really what the key drivers of employee engagement have had the highest impact or the highest effect based off of the pandemic over the past 9 months. So I'm going to take you through a quick presentation. Happy to answer any questions afterwards. But just quickly, Peakon is an employee success platform, and we want to empower every employee at an organization to drive the change that they want to see. And we do that through a process of asking employees how they feel about many different aspects of their work life. We have 14 key drivers of engagement, and then we have a series of sub-drivers, all of these allowing us to understand what ultimately is driving employees' engagement and experience in the workplace. So we knew that obviously the pandemic affected all of our businesses. We are all moving into a new world of work, which is constantly evolving and changing. And we really wanted to understand the specific impact that the pandemic had on employee engagement and these different drivers of engagement. And so we took a look at our data set. We have over 140 million data points in our data set. And just to give you some perspective of what that means, every second of the day somewhere around the world is answering a Peakon survey question, and approximately every 4 seconds of the day, an employee somewhere in the world across 160 countries is putting a comment in the system to their manager or to their organization, anonymous comments. So we have a lot of insights and a lot of data in our data set, and that really helps us to understand from a true numbers perspective about how the pandemic has been impacting employee engagement. So we took a look at about 10 million data points from January of 2020, and we looked at a group of employees, how they answered our full question set around these key drivers of engagement and also the engagement question. And then we looked at those same group of employees and how they responded to the same questions in the summertime, later in the summertime. And we understood the difference between the two. So it's quite interesting for us to see what the impact was on employee engagement across the globe. Now, these 10 million data points are a subsection of data across all of the different continents, across all different industries, all different generations in the workforce. So it's a very broad data set, and I'll share some specifics with you as we go through. So quite interestingly, what we found was that our customers saw an employee engagement increase of 2% during the first half of 2020, a little bit longer than the first half of 2020. And that's significant to see that there was a 2% increase as we're going through one of the most challenging and difficult pandemics that we've ever experienced in our lifetimes. and probably one of the biggest challenges that any business has had to face in the history of, I would say, the majority of us on this call. So it is, and the reason why this is significant is because in a normal time frame, when I say normal, non-pandemic, just standard working or whatever normal used to be, we would see less than 1% change in engagement over the same period of time. So the fact that we saw a 2% increase, and the fact that it was an increase, is significant. And what that's telling us is that employees overall have been actually very happy with how their organizations have responded to the pandemic. To put this into a bit more context for you, thinking of the continents, Oceania, which includes Australia and New Zealand, actually had the largest increase of employee engagement over this time period. It was about 4% increase, which is significant, but it is nice to see that all continents around the world did have an increase of employee engagement during the time of the pandemic. So that is a great place to start, and a very good place for us as we look at moving into 2021 and knowing that we have engaged workforces, and we know that employees want to be heard. So we're going to talk about that as we go through these slides. So we wanted to look at what exactly was driving this 2% increase of employee engagement. So what caused it? Well, we know that we have these 14 drivers of engagement. They range from aspects like remote work, autonomy, goal setting, management support, strategy, and we ask employees questions on all of these different parameters within their work life, and then we're able to understand what drives or has the most impact on the level of engagement. We correlate all of that data in our system, and we're able to truly understand the tangible aspects of their work environment, of their work life, of their employee experience that ultimately drive their employee engagement. So we'll start with the first one, which was around remote working. We ask a question, which is, I have the option to work remotely when I would like to. Now, not surprisingly, pretty much every organization in the world, if we think about over the summer and as the pandemic has unfolded over this past year, every organization moved to remote working or working from home. But the key here is that the satisfaction with employees around working remotely jumped by 10%, and that is a significant increase over this period of time. The thing to keep in mind is that it's not just about remote working, it's about being enabled to work from home. Most people would say that, well, I may have the opportunity to work remotely when I'd like to, but people would probably start scoring lower on this number if they couldn't effectively work from home. So organizations have done a good job at responding to the needs of their employees to work remotely. And this increase of 10% is quite significant across the board. We saw the largest increase in Asia. The satisfaction around remote working actually increased almost 20%, which is a significant number. And also in financial services, we start looking at industries and how these scores or how these results came across from an industry perspective. The financial services industry also had a significant increase of almost 17%, a little over 17% when it came to satisfaction around remote working. So what we do know is that remote working is here to stay. Now, what that means is it may not be working from home, but this hybrid model, this flexible working model is absolutely going to have to be part of the future of work. And we're all going to have to figure out what that looks like for our individual organizations. One thing we have found is that this is a very individualized journey for organizations, and learning from their employees what is working, what is not, will really help you with building the future of work. But we do know that some sort of a flexible work option is going to be expected from employees moving forward. The second area that we looked at was this idea of working environment. Employee scores around working environment, when we asked them, my physical working environment contributes positively to my ability to do my job, that increased by more than 6%. Again, a very significant increase from a data perspective. Again, this is saying that employees are figuring out how to make remote working or working outside of the office, make those environments work for them. Organizations have done a good job with supplying office needs, monitors, desks, chairs, all of this functionality that is really needed for employees to be able to truly function in an environment outside of the office. Organizations have done well, employees have responded to this, and satisfaction has gone up. In the technology sector, this actually went up by almost 10%. And again, in professional services and financial services, we saw a significant increase of about 7 to 8% here around working environment. So we talk now about reimagining the physical workspace. We all know that we're going to probably have some sort of a flexible workspace. Most organizations are still going to keep offices. Maybe employees will come in 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whatever that may look like for your individual organization. But we do know that the physical workspace is going to have to change. Probably employees are not going to maybe have their own desks. Organizations are moving to more community type, team type environments within their offices, where maybe teams come in and work together on a day or 2 days a week. But something that we are going to have to figure out as we look at 2021 is how we reimagine the physical workspace. Something that is incredibly important right now is mental well-being. We ask employees a question, company, so let's say Peakon really cares about my mental well-being. We know that good mental health equals reduced absenteeism and also equals higher productivity. The World Health Organization came out with a statistic recently that said that it estimates $1 trillion a year is lost on productivity based off of just depression and anxiety within the workforce. So we know that mental health is something that we all need to focus on. Employees feel more supported by their organizations. There was a 5% increase with employees feeling more satisfied with their employers being focused on their own individual mental health, mental well-being. And we know that it is good for business. When there is an increase in mental well-being with our employees, we know that we will have positive business outcomes. We need to refocus and rethink about the policies that we have today. Empathetic leadership has never been more important than it is now. We have employees specifically saying in Pecan how much they enjoy the empathetic leadership that their senior leadership, direct leadership is providing, and that they have provided through the past year. And senior leaders leading with positive mental health behaviors is incredibly important as we look at 2021. There was only one driver that did not increase. So across the board, all these 14 drivers, 13 of them had increases. So employees are feeling connected to their organizations. They're feeling positive about many different aspects of their work environment, and they are more engaged. However, they do not feel that they are growing. I feel that I'm growing professionally. Across the board, employees do not feel this way. And we looked at this from a generational perspective, because again, we can look at many different aspects of our data. And this one in particular, we saw that Gen Z employees and millennial employees in the workforce had actually a decrease. Gen Z decreased satisfaction in this by 3.5% and millennials by 2%. And the reason why this is important is because within the next 2 years, 2.5 years, Gen Z and millennials will make up about 70 to 80% of all of our workforces, the global workforce. So it is incredibly important. We've been focused on business continuity, business resiliency in 2020, which makes total sense. And something that's gone by the wayside is individual growth and development plans, but our employees need that, they want that. So it's an area that we really should look at for 2021, especially with Gen Z and millennials, because they're going to make up a significant part of our workforce in the very near future. So quickly on developing the skills for recovery, we must continue to make sure that work works for people, and your people are the heartbeat of your organization. Your organization isn't unique. I encourage all of you to empower the voice of your employees, hear what they have to say, work with them to build the future of your organizations. They have never felt more connected to your organizations, but they've also never felt more connected to the long-term strategy and being part of that strategy, an individual part of that strategy. And the best way you can do that is by empowering their voice and taking their thoughts and actions to build what your future will look like. We are all writing the next chapter of our organizations, and bringing our people along on that journey is probably the most important phase for us to be successful for 2021. So if you'd like to learn more about Pecan, check us out at peakon.com. I'm going to jump into the Q&A room, but thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed the conversation.
I don't see that we have questions, but I just want to make sure I understood correctly that we should be focusing on our employees, making sure that they are completely fine in the new situation.
Yes, I think the key is that we just need to listen to what the most important aspects of our individual employee groups are, and we need to build a future based off of what their needs are. So, and the best way to do that is by listening to every employee in your workforce, and they're really responding to that, and that's also, I think, driving a lot more engagement. Higher engagement means higher productivity, which ultimately higher productivity means higher outcomes, higher outputs for businesses. So that we're seeing that in the most successful organizations today, and we have a great opportunity as companies to really build that for 2021.
Thank you so much. I feel like it's such a great message that we can convey. We would love to thank you. We have special mugs for all of our speakers, so we will send this to you with the mail, as in the offline mail.